Welcome to NHK World Direct Talk, interviews with leaders, visionaries, and pioneers who are shaping Asia and the rest of the world. Mexico has a population of 123 million. It's been 200 years since the country gained its independence from Spain. The Latin American country that borders the United States is multicultural and multi-ethnic, where many indigenous people still live. Alejandra Ancheita is a lawyer who works to protect the labor rights of these vulnerable groups from foreign and domestic corporations. She explained to us the current situation in Mexico.
In the past, ancient civilizations like the Maya and the Aztec prospered in the area that is now Mexico. It then became a Spanish colony in the 16th century, a period which lasted over 300 years. But the indigenous people, collectively known as Indio in Spanish, still account for 10% of the national population, with their own communities and languages. Ms. Ancheita launched a nonprofit group called ProDesk, which, together with volunteers and staff, is active in protecting the rights of these indigenous peoples.
The work that we are basically doing is strategic litigation for violations to economic, social, and cultural rights. Specifically, the right to the land, territory, and natural resources of agrarian communities, but also indigenous communities that are being affected by transnational corporations, violating their environmental rights, or the right to land, or the right to territory and natural resources. The industries that are mostly causing violations to human rights are the extractive industry, for example, mining industry. We have a very important case in the north of the country, in the state of Durango, where we are working with an agrarian community that has more than 7 years defending the right to the land because the presence of a Canadian mining company. And this company came to this community asking for renting their land for do exploration and exploitation of minerals, principally silver and zinc. The company started to do the exploration and exploitation in 2004, and in 2007 they came again to ask not only for renting but also for buying the land of the community. With the support of ProDesk, the community was able to sign an agreement with the company, which includes not only economic clauses but also social and environmental clauses. But after 2 years that this agreement was signed, the company wasn't fulfilling all the clauses, and that was when the community decided to ask for a meeting with the company in order to revise why they weren't fulfilling their obligations. And the company didn't want to have another agreement with the community, and that originate also the demand of the community for nullifying that contract.
Despite promises to protect environmental resources, in particular the local residents' source of fresh water, their water became extremely polluted and hardly suitable for household or even agricultural use. Ms. Ancheita proposed that the local residents unite in the fight to improve their water.
They now are recovering their land, principally because the company is causing violations to the environment and also violations to the right to have access to potable water, which is very important for this community, principally because they are based in a desertic part of the country. That is just one case of ProDesk, but for example, other cases related to the defense of the territory and natural resources are two cases that we are also litigating in the state of Oaxaca. And those cases are for the defense of territory and natural resources of those two indigenous communities, one in Juchitán and the other in Unión Hidalgo. Those communities are indigenous Zapotecos. And the violations that they are suffering are principally because the presence of the construction of wind parks, specifically developed by two Spanish corporations. And they came to ask again for renting their land, not giving them enough information about this kind of mega projects. And the second element in these cases is that all the information that these communities were able to sign was in Spanish, but the language of these communities is Zapoteca, the Zapoteca language. So they didn't really understood what they were signing because it was in Spanish. The other element is that these kind of projects has to be developed only if the company, in collaboration with the government, fulfill the obligation to do the consultation to these communities, which implicates that the community has to agree with all the information after they know all the information and all the implications that these kind of projects will have for their community life and for their future in their communities. Only if they agree to do that with a consultation, that is the possibility that the companies have to really develop these kind of projects. The consultation never happened. So that is part of the violations that we are now defending in the state of Oaxaca. The other level of success that I can say is the success that we are achieving with the organizing process, which means that the communities and the collective of workers supported by Prodesc are more able to deal with the corporations and deal also with the authorities and the government in the different levels because they are very well organized. They know their rights, they know how to demand the rights, and they also know how to protect themselves from the possibilities to receive threats or any other kind of retaliation for demanding their rights.
Ms. Ancheita received the 2014 Martin and Knowles Award for Human Rights Defenders, a prize named after the British former Secretary General of Amnesty International. Currently, she's also working to protect the rights of Mexican migrant workers in the United States.
Mexicans that are traveling each year to the United States under labor visas for people that are able to travel to the United States and stay there for 1 season or 2 seasons doing, for example, agricultural work or construction work. And we are at the same time helping these workers to be collective organized in order to have more access to information, in order to know better their rights, and also in order to, once they decide to denounce these kind of violations, be prepared collectively to face any kind of risk or any kind of retaliation that they could receive from the recruiter or for the employer. The attitude of President Trump related to Mexico is very unfortunate, and it is not an attitude that we believe is the right attitude for a president of the United States or any other country in the world. It's very racist and very classist. When a huge number of Mexicans living in the United States are part of the working class that are working very hard, for example, in the fields collecting all the food that the US people are putting on their tables and receiving for that kind of work a very bad labor condition situation and also a salary that is a very bad salary.
Ms. Ancheita actively works as a lawyer advocating the protection of the rights of the underprivileged in her country. However, such problems are not limited to Mexico. They can be found in countries throughout the world.
And I think one of the answers, there is not only one answer, no? But one of the answers to try to resolve the problems in Mexico or in Asia is, of course, knowing the rights. One important element for the defense of human rights is not only using the law for defending human rights, but also be organized. That will be part of the answers to build for the future of indigenous communities and also collective workers here in Mexico and other countries in the world.